like, nope, I take my boat out on the water and I eat bagels for breakfast.
Yeah, I'm back. Thank God.
Sean, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Chris, are you recording already?
Yeah, we're going.
Uh, oh, oh. Let's get started then. Yeah.
Hello, welcome to the Flip Side Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Sternhouse, and we have our other host, Sean Brazzali, with us today.
Wow, that is the most professional you've ever sounded in your life. Sounded like you're here for an interview.
Thank you for joining me, Sean. What are we talking about today?
Well, I thought you were introducing, but I guess I will take that. So we're talking about testosterone. That's about the extent that I know, because
Awesome.
I'm coming into this a little bit blind.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, we're talking about testosterone and kind of the benefits to how this helps you in sports, specifically tricking, because that's what we're talking about. So
Yes.
yeah, so basically the idea is this is something that I've been like playing with and messing with through injuries that I've had. I've been like searching for different ways to like heal faster and all these things. And I realized that basically everything that you do to help healing actually also helps you increase testosterone levels. So I found that they actually like pretty much intermingled with each other. So if you search like how to heal faster, it'll be like, oh, take ice baths, eat these foods, do this type of exercise. And then if you look how to increase your testosterone levels, it's actually the exact same types of things. So basically, we're going to go over those things and see how to increase testosterone levels because ultimately, just increasing your testosterone levels will also help you heal quicker. It's one of the things. Even like taking testosterone supplements and things like that will help you heal faster. I don't necessarily think that's a good idea, and obviously some sports don't allow it. So if you're
Yes.
competing and things like that, then it's not a good idea. But that's also something else to take into mind. If a sport says it's illegal to take testosterone, it's probably pretty fucking good to have high levels of testosterone.
Yeah, because it's good at that point. It's considered doping because it gives you that little biological edge to some degree, or like it gives you an edge that you shouldn't normally have unless you, for some reason, have obscenely high testosterone levels normally. But like those
Which
are
is
probably some
exactly what we're
not
trying to
normal.
do. It is
Yes,
exactly what we're trying to do today. How high can we get our testosterone levels naturally and safely? And yeah, exactly. So
not die from
first
it.
up,
Cool.
and yeah, and not do anything bad. Okay, so basically, I just have like a quick list here. We'll cite our sources or whatever if you guys want to look at it, but it's pretty much just like we just searched it and found like the most repetitive answers and just picked one that they're all pretty much the same. It's not like any conspiracy theory shit or anything like that. So
Going down the rabbit hole, you're like,
right,
ooh,
it's pretty much right on the surface of everything. So it's not difficult to find. It's just interesting to find the connections and actually like see it come to light. So yeah, a really quick list of 8 things. We got exercise and lift weights, obviously, and we can discuss each one as we go. I think that'll be easier than
yes,
to backtrack. So exercise and lift weights. So I think it's really cool to also look at it biologically. So obviously, if you are exercising and lifting weights, your body says, oh, well, I must need to have strong muscles to survive. And so it increases your
yeah,
testosterone levels to allow muscle growth to allow you to continue lifting heavy things. Makes
yes,
sense.
and that comes from back in the wee old days of me make fire, because if you're not strong and able to survive and actually hunt on your own, you kind of die. So that's part of the reason for that, because you needed to last long times. And now it's more or less like, I think a lot of people have gotten very comfortable and very lazy is one term of putting it. It's not a great term at this point, but hey, and it's
No, I
just,
think it's
you're
accurate.
complacent.
Yeah,
There it is. That's the
complacent.
word. So, I mean, you're not going to naturally have high testosterone if you're usually just sitting around all the time, which like sitting at a desk job is like one thing that's not going to help. So you got to find that in your routine of trying to like work out a little bit and lift weights, because it will help. And it'll probably take a lot of time for it to start to naturally happen more often, of like getting more testosterone and having your body see that it needs to be stronger, you need to produce more. Where if you're already an athlete, like from a young age, you probably don't have really that much of an issue with it, because your body is naturally just constantly pumping it out then, because it knows that it has to be strong to be able to last and get better at what you're doing, and it can tell.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's like, and it's cool. Like you're tricking your biological systems to allow you to do something that it would naturally do. But we're not in, our natural environment, which is why we have to trick our system into doing these things to allow us to have,
Yes.
you know, all of our natural chemicals processes that are supposed to be happening. And this is actually probably the biggest one too, because if you exercise and lift weights, it will allow the other things to happen a lot more naturally, instead of like forcing those. So this is probably the number one thing. Everything else kind of branches off of this. So yeah,
Okay.
exercising and lifting weights. Next one is eat protein, fats, and carbs. So those specifically are important because those are the driving forces for building muscles. This
Yes.
isn't because you're building muscles that creates testosterone. It is the requirement to have your body create testosterone. Like your body cannot create it without these pieces. So it's, you know, the cause and effect is that order.
Yeah.
You have to eat
And
it
like,
in order to get it.
yeah, and you don't want to do it in too much of excess. So that is one thing to be mindful of, because I've seen people jump into like, especially doing a new training regimen sometimes. Especially old friends who are just doing athletics and like wrestling, track, all that kind of stuff. And they'll just be like, oh yeah, well, you know, I'm eating like 3.5 chicken breasts a day or something like that. I'm like, whoa, that's a lot. But okay. I'm like, are you trying to be a power lifter or like what's going on? Because
Yeah.
that's a lot. Like, granted, I had zero thought about that when I ate. I was just like, cool, I need food. Like I'm
Right.
practicing 6 to 7 days a week. So like, yeah, I'm dying all the
And
time.
that's exactly what I mean too. Like you'll probably, once you get on it, you probably get into that habit really quickly because your body wants the fuel. You start eating it and your body goes, oh yeah, that's what I want. Like
Yeah,
as soon as you start eating it, it's like you start to crave it really quickly. And that's why the exercising is so important, specifically lifting weights, because you're going to start to crave those things that you need. And yeah, they go hand in
help
hand.
you.
If you're not hungry because you didn't work out, you're not going to eat the right things. You're just going to eat whatever's lying
True.
around.
And like easy ways of getting some of those things, like chocolate milk is a big one because it has
Yes.
protein and it has the correct types of fats that you're usually looking for building muscle. So one thing my coach always made us do, well, not made us, suggested, was
Just
after like our
holding
morning
you
practice.
down.
Yeah, just holding me down, just like drink it. Just waterboarding us with chocolate milk.
Which
Oh, God.
that sounds like heaven.
But so what we would do is like in between our morning practice and our afternoon practice, we'd have like just a glass of chocolate milk. It's not like you need that much, but it, in my opinion, it worked for me really well, and it helped a lot because it also got rid of a little bit more fatigue, because it was just like, okay, I'm recuperating quicker, because that's another thing with, even though you're trying to build testosterone at this point, but muscle recovery helps a lot with feeling like you continue easier, because you're trying to build these habits to increase your testosterone. And like if you can't build the habit because you're like, well, this hurts, why do I want to do something that hurts? Yeah, no, most people don't. So it's not how that works. So you got to build your ways of not just going till soreness every time, because some people just don't understand like the best way to combat soreness is to work through the soreness anyway. And it sucks because it hurts just so bad, but you just have to do it. And one way to mitigate that is usually better, cleaner proteins. So like fish, I think it is, and chicken are some of like the cleanest proteins.
Yes.
And then
those, and then nuts, and
yes.
then avocado for fats are going to be
Yes.
really, really good. Plus anything that's like liquefied too. So like if you're doing like protein shakes, that's going to be a lot easier to digest, obviously.
Yes. And surprisingly, broccoli is really good.
Yeah,
Didn't know that.
broccoli and spinach are like the top two if you're looking for, you know, plant health foods. Like also I did this huge dietary thing of like all the foods that are like super important and like everything that that you need in order to like have the healthiest diet. And like basically you list every food that lands in the categories, and the food that popped up in every single category was spinach, which is pretty cool.
Really?
So, yeah. In every single, so spinach and lentils were the top two for consistency.
Spinach and lentil. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I do like spinach, and I do put it in a lot of things. When I make my ramen that has too much sodium for one normal human being, I do add probably like half a bag of spinach, because like, man, it makes it delicious.
There you go. That's awesome. Yeah, I love spinach. But it's funny that you brought that up though, like the healing aspect, because that's one of the biggest things that I wanted to talk about this in general anyway, was because testosterone helps heal. So basically, from a quick little Google here, it says, in view of the recovery aspect, testosterone has a critical role in mediating improved muscle mass and is essential for skeletal muscle growth. Therefore, testosterone therapy might be improve exercise capacity, muscle strength, glucose metabolism, and something else that seems important. And basically, but also,
Long word.
yeah, long words. And then there's also something else in here. Basically, it helps to strengthen your skeleton, your muscles, the connections between the two, and also your ligaments. And obviously, the more muscles you have, the more increased blood flow you have, which also
Yes.
increase healing as well. That
Yeah.
increases your metabolism, which also increase your food intake, which increases your healing and your heart rate and everything. Like the higher, like having high muscle mass is basically one of the best things you can do for your overall blood flow, which is the best thing you can do for your overall healing ability.
Yeah.
So testosterone is massive when it comes to that. And just
So I
having that chemical in your body also is going to be really important in general for
Yes.
healing.
And pretty much what I'm taking away from this, even though yes, this is probably mostly sarcasm, is that power builders or power lifters are just absolute monsters and tanks then. Or like
Uh,
world's strongest men, because those dudes are like almost 7 feet tall and just absolutely monstrous. Like
yeah, yeah.
I've been watching some videos on them, like with Eddie Hall and oh god, who's the guy that he normally does videos with? It's Eddie Hall and someone else, and I can't remember his name off
I'll
the top of my head
recognize the name
now.
as soon as you say it, but I don't know.
But they are even like, how is that possible?
It's
Like,
crazy. Like the body adapts so well.
I know.
It's wild.
And they're like, yeah, when I'm really on my training regimen and I'm like really prepping for like getting ready for World's Strongest Man, I'm usually eating like, I think one of them said like close to like 10 to 15,000 calories a day. I'm like holy shit.
Do you even do you
That's so much.
how do you do anything else but eat? That's a lot of food.
And their workouts are intense. Like they are lifting some heavy weight, and it is Eddie, he said at one point when he was younger, when he was doing training, he would pretty much be doing like, I think it was 700 or 800 pound squats with no belt. Just
What the? That's
and that was like,
insane.
yeah, and you'd be doing for reps. He wouldn't just be like, yeah, it was something ridiculous. And I'm just like, how? Like,
Yeah.
granted, I'm 5'6", like 5'5", 5'6". Like, I couldn't imagine just being strong enough to literally just be squatting for reps anywhere above 600 pounds. Like, that's
Yeah. Even
insane.
600 pounds, you're like, that's good. Like if you were a god, that's your 3 rep max. And this guy's like,
Yeah.
what?
And he's just getting there, just like no belt trainer, no nothing. And he's no straps for
Yeah.
the knees or anything. And he's just like, yep, all right, like we're good. I'm just like, how? Like that's
It's
crazy.
crazy. It's so crazy.
But yeah, little tiny offshoot there from that, because
Yeah.
they're just superhuman, and they probably have like obscenely high testosterone levels because
Yeah,
of that.
and who
they're
knows,
probably
maybe
doing some
they're
other things.
but I was gonna say maybe they're juicing anyway, and if they're juicing, then obviously that increases your testosterone levels, which is gonna make you a monster. So either way, it makes what we're saying look good. The next one, number 3, is minimize stress and cortisol levels. So what's
That's
really interesting about that, yes, not easy to do, but the best thing you can do to minimize stress and cortisol levels is work out. So
wow, it's like it all ties back.
like I
to
said,
one
it
thing.
does. So yeah, and another way that you can minimize stress and cortisol levels is getting adequate sleep, which is actually number 5. So
Wow,
there we go.
adequate sleep. Oh man, that's even for some people I know, that's already tough. That's already tough for me now,
I
because starting my second job.
Yeah, I might not have testosterone levels.
I just somehow work out and eat, and I feel fine. I think.
But I don't
Is this
sleep.
normal?
I have been
Yeah,
awake since 11:30, and it is currently almost 11.
oh my god!
I've
As
been almost
many
awake.
viewers have probably heard, Chris just works obscene hours, and now
Yeah.
I'm starting a job that starts at 4:15. Well, I have to wake up at 4:15 in the morning, and I usually don't get home from coaching until probably like 9 p.m. So if I'm not in bed falling asleep right then, and I still haven't eaten dinner,
Yeah.
which yeah, I'm gonna eat dinner, so I'm getting like 5 hours of sleep, and then hopefully getting a nap in if I'm lucky.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing too. But minimizing stress and cortisol levels. Yeah. Any other things we can do to minimize stress?
Meditation, baths, doing anything that's actually relaxing to you. So like
Self-care type
even
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, like health, like general healthcare, like things that are good for you. So like if you have in general like a video game that's just like you're not playing online with friends that much and it's not like super competitive or something like that, and you're just kind of playing to have fun, that can help you just relax. Or like reading a book, taking a
Dude,
bath,
I am
basketball.
so glad you brought that up because this is actually something I was reading on a relationship forum like a long time ago. It was just like something that caught my eye, and it was about like this girl who was like upset because her boyfriend would always come home and play video games, and she was like, I don't want him to come home and play video games. I want him to spend time with me, but he won't do it. But he just worked like a 10-hour shift or something. So I get it, but she was talking to a doctor about it, and the doctor was basically
Yeah.
like he needs alone time after work to like to basically unwind because and alone time for men also is something else that builds testosterone levels. So his after
Really?
spending time with a lot of people and being like in a leadership role, that lowers your testosterone level over time. And once you get alone, once you're having alone time, that will rebuild your testosterone levels naturally. So that's what he's
Hmm.
doing is he's like, that's why men generally like will gravitate towards like video games or like hiking alone or something along those lines of like one thing that they do by themselves. And
Interesting.
yeah, so that was not even on my list. I wasn't even planning on talking about that, but that was just something I saw like a long time ago. I thought it was super
Oh
interesting.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's like stuff that I do because like when I had people up here that I could play like card games with, and especially like Magic, Pokemon, stuff like that, like that was kind of my relaxing thing. Like, even though yeah, it can be competitive, but I wasn't trying to like win tournaments and doing that. It was more just like, oh yeah, like this is cool. Like, oh, like this interaction's kind of fun. Like, oh, could this deck win? And like, it's still, even though you're trying to compete in a sense because you want to win, but at the same time you're like, it's just something fun that takes my mind off of everything else that I'm worrying about right now or that I was worrying about. So it really helps reduce that stress. The biggest thing that I do now is sometimes I'll just like play a game for an hour, or I'll read some manga sometimes, or maybe watch a new anime that I haven't started yet, or just rewatch an old one because I'm just like, I just need to turn my brain off and
Yeah,
just like sit
and
in the
what's
bath.
also interesting, I'm not exactly sure if this lines up or not, but what's really interesting about all the things you're talking about, and like even like going for a hike, which is like my usual go-to, all of that stuff like removes you from the real world, like not the real
Yeah.
world, but like it removes you from your life. Like so you get to take a second and be like, hey, nothing matters. And also tricking is like a form of meditation. If you're tricking
Yes.
alone, you're exercising, you're having alone time, you're solving problems. Like these are types of things that are gonna raise
Yeah.
testosterone levels.
Hey, if you enjoy our content and you want to show some support, make sure you follow us on Spotify and Instagram. Our Instagram tag is the_flip_side_podcast. Just make sure to go on there. Just shout out like old episodes that you liked, anything about the new episodes. You can comment on any of them. We would really appreciate it. And if you do end up wanting to go a step further, just become a supporter. All you have to do is follow the link in the description in any of our episodes that we've published. And you can also go under the About section in our Spotify homepage.
You can do as little as 99 cents a month. Any amount that you guys support us is going to help us build a better podcast and help build better trickers around the world. So we're going through that list. The next one up is get some sun for vitamin D.
Wow.
Yep.
So taking a hike.
Yeah, taking a hike, tricking outside in the grass. I know we've talked about barefoot walking before too. So
Yes.
like the electrical currents through barefoot, touching the ground. So that's why I barefoot hike. Also because it's just amazing and builds strength in your feet, and also just barefoot tricking in the grass. Also very very good. And probably promotes the calmness. It promotes the like fresh air, everything. I don't,
Yeah.
it pretty much goes back to everything we're talking about, like the exercise, being outside, everything like
And we
that.
have done an episode on actually training on grass surfaces and kind of some benefits here and there.
Also
This is a
very
new
true.
one, is just it'll help increase that testosterone and potentially like also take down those stress levels and those cortisol levels that you're looking at. So I mean, that is a new thing we could add to that list that we did do a long time ago. So we did the training on different surfaces. We've done that. And we've done deeper dive onto grass surfaces, the village hidden in the grass, if I remember correctly, episode.
Yeah.
So definitely check those out because those will also be good for working on grass stuff and like trying to understand a little bit more of grass training and kind of stuff like that and some other benefits. But this is another one to add to that list, which kind of is nice.
Yeah,
to
I
know.
love how they're all overlapping. I think that's the
Yeah.
crazy thing about it is you say like, oh, this is good for this and this is good for this, and then you go, oh wait, but they're both good for all of these things. So
Yeah.
you really don't need an extensive list of things. It's just really a few things, and it impacts a lot more than you probably realize.
Yeah, that's what's surprising. It's literally pretty much what takes care of most of these things beyond like lifting weights. If you just went outside and walked or hiked, like that's literally it. And it will
Yeah,
start to solve so many of those things. Like, yeah, like having a better diet and like doing those things where you're eating more proteins, correct fats, correct carbs, and all that kind of stuff. But like beyond those two things, because like that usually comes with wanting to be a healthier anyway, which usually increasing your testosterone, you're trying to some degree be healthier, or at
yeah.
least like training wise, you want to be healthy because it also helps you with all of these things. So it's crazy to think that one little exercise can have that drastic of an effect.
It
Just doing
seemed
one
it
thing.
seems like it, yeah. And then so here's the next one. Avoid estrogen like chemicals. So I don't know if you heard like this is kind of happening when I was in school. I guess like plastics were just being introduced, but like girls started going through puberty sooner because there was like certain chemicals in plastics that were increasing estrogen in people from like touching it. So that's really
That's
interesting.
weird.
And also like there's been a lot of talk recently about foods that have been wrapped in plastic. So you really do not want to microwave foods that are in plastics, even if they're meant to be. It's not good for you, and it increases estrogen levels. So yeah, those are obviously that's going to counteract your testosterone levels, and yeah, you don't want that. So as much as you can
Yeah.
limit that as possible, and you're also not going to like this one, Sean. Watch your alcohol intake. So
Hey, I have not been drinking that much. I've only had a couple shots of tequila here and there with some like limoncello seltzer water stuff, which is delicious, or pineapple crush. Let me tell you,
nice.
tastes delicious. But
Oh, pineapple
like,
crush sounds good. And tequila
yeah,
is the best one. That's the, very obviously the most
yes,
healthy alcohol you can drink because it has the lowest sugar content.
yes, and I'm trying to keep it as just like a very special occasion where I'm doing anything like that. I mean, I hit a rough patch for a little bit of just like when you're in your feels, but
Yeah.
you kind of have to plateau it, and you just got to remind yourself like, hey, I can't do this like this isn't going to lead to healthy habits, so I'm just going to like cut it, at least try as much as you can. And that's kind of where I got to. I was like, just take a step back, think about it, and be like, yeah, I don't want to be this person,
Yeah.
so don't do
There's a
these
healthy
things.
balance to everything too. Like I think there was this is just off the top of my head. I heard there was like a study done. People who drink alcohol tend to live longer. I don't know if that's like curricular correlated or whatever. I just heard that somewhere. And basically the idea was that alcohol relaxes you. So then you have lower cortisol levels, which makes you live longer because stress takes years off your life very quickly. So
Yeah, it apparently really destroys your heart, which is
yeah,
one of the like your heart and your brain. It really affects, which is a big problem.
yeah,
And
like
especially, I
aggressively by
think,
like 20 years or something. Like it's something
yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
and especially with like this next upcoming generation, especially with like how much school has changed, even since probably you've been out of school.
Yeah.
I feel like school has changed drastically,
And with
and
all
like,
this AI stuff, it's going to change even more. Just
yeah,
like all the access
maybe
people
that'll
have to the internet, they cannot keep doing schooling the same way. They just can't.
no, and like that's the thing where it's causing so much stress in kids' lives that like they can't focus on anything else. And I've been running into this issue a lot with the kids that I'm coaching. I'm just like,
Right.
they're like, well, I have like this test to do, and I have this, and I have this project, and I'm like, it's like, why do you have so much? Like, I don't remember having that many things to do
Yeah.
when I was in school. And like, granted, it feels like I'm a caveman when I say when I was in school, because that's like 12, 13 years ago. But like, hey, it still doesn't make sense to me if like that it's that stressful. Like it's just mind boggling to me. I'm like, it shouldn't feel that hard
But you
to
also
get
have to
through.
remember, like, your ability to cope with things as a child are so much less, you
Yeah, that's
know?
true.
Yeah. So I think it like that happens to me a lot where like I'm working with kids, right? And they're like super stressed about this thing. I'm like, dude, it's not that big of a deal. But then I'm like, wait, to them, this is their entire life. Like their whole
Yeah.
life is like riding on this thing that's like to me not that important and like overall not that important, but they can't see beyond this one day or this one thing. And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
They
and
can't
kids just
quite
have
see the
such a
bigger picture.
short span of time that they've lived. They're like, one day to them is like a good chunk of percentage of their life. So
Yeah.
it's like understandable. You just have to look at it like that, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So but yeah, so avoid estrogen like chemicals. That also there's like a sub note in that one that also talks about having a healthy sex life. Having a healthy sex life also increases testosterone levels because testosterone is part of the male reproductive system. So if it's being used, then it will increase your testosterone levels.
Ask for more.
Yeah, exactly.
So like
So makes
that is a
sense.
normal thing, especially we'll range it as consensual and over 18 audience there. But
Thank you for that.
like those are definitely things that can help because like to some degree there's the saying of if you don't use it, you lose it. And it kind of applies in like a certain scenarios, especially it seems like with testosterone. It's like the overarching picture in my head is like if you're really not using that testosterone, your body is just like, why am I going to keep producing this as much? Because like you don't need it. So the only way to actually start getting more of it and to start producing higher levels is just to actually go out and actively use it more often and actually pretty much telling your body like, I need this way more often. Let's make that a thing.
There was something else that came into my head that I thought, okay, yeah, interesting. So something else that the last piece of information that I found has so there was this study done about this guy who he was talking about taking supplements potentially, and he was like, there's a few things he wanted to try. He talked to a bunch of doctors, and then he did something on his own. And what he did is he would take ice baths, and then he would immediately go from the ice bath and then go to work out. He'd obviously warm up like you wouldn't just jump into like a high intensity workout, but you go from that ice bath and you naturally let your body warm up, and then you do a high intensity workout by the end of your body warming up. So you go all the way from freezing all the way to hot and warm and doing high intensity work. And he went back to the doctor and they said, I mean, he had extremely low T levels, but his testosterone increased like tenfold. It was something ridiculous. And they're like, okay, what supplements are you on? And he's like, no, I'm not on any. It was the act of going from ice bath to the workout. And that's what I was just searching up is like, I wasn't sure if testosterone was important for body temperature regulation. It says it's not, but I'm not sure what exactly it is that would correlate the ice bath. And it definitely wasn't just the workout. Like it does say here, let's see. So ice bath is really, really good for your libido. And this is something else that I heard too, is that recovering crack addicts will take ice baths because it releases a dopamine hit that lasts for like 5 hours. And like it helps wean them off of really, really addictive drugs. So yeah. So so like high dopamine levels are also very important for high testosterone, which makes sense because that's, instead of trying to regulate cortisol, maybe you should be searching for dopamine. Like, right. So makes sense. So yeah, an ice bath, I think that's going to be really, really big. Plus it reduces inflammation, which increases blood flow, which increases, your ability to create chemicals inside your body.
Yeah.
Like it's all connected.
And it helps with recovering after a workout too. So like,
yes,
I don't know if he was doing that too potentially, but like, I know that can help at least alleviate some aches and pains that you may get, especially like over time, like, especially if you're a little bit older, like unfortunately with me was starting to get arthritis in my knee, which is fantastic. And I ice it a lot, but I don't want to say ice all the time and ice everything, but in this case, that's really interesting that it goes from ice bath to working out instead of like the other way around.
I know. Yeah, that was specifically, that part of it was really, really important. They said you have to do it in that way. Most people were told originally by like sports therapists or whatever, that you want to do it in the reverse, but they are finding out now that that's not necessarily true. If you're doing the ice bath beforehand, it actually sets you up for a lot more health benefits.
That is interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's like the immediate stress of waking up. There's this other really cool thing. I don't know if this is related to testosterone levels at all, but what's really interesting is like there's this method where you sit there and you like when you're really tired, right? And you like hold your keys or something, and then you sit in a chair and you like meditate and you try to fall asleep, and then you fall asleep and then you drop your keys and then you wake up like startled, and then you can stay awake for really long periods of time. Honestly, to me, that sounds like a cortisol thing, which is a bad thing. But also there's like this balance of like being stressed to increase your testosterone levels and also being like getting high dopamine hits to increase testosterone levels. Like you need to have both. You can't just have like this, like if you just were avoiding cortisol, then like people who just sat there and played video games all day long would have the highest testosterone levels, which is definitely not the case. Like there has to be like a level of stress that you're undergoing, a level of like leadership that you're, entailing yourself in, and also like the balance of being chill too. So
That's interesting.
yeah.
And I actually have heard about that. It was a scientist that used to do that. He would hold the ball in one hand, and it was a steel ball. And when he would fall asleep, because usually right when you wake up or right as you're going to sleep is when your brain is most creative. Really weird. It's usually because there's less going on in there. So it comes up sometimes with your best ideas, like pretty much literally as you're falling asleep or right as you wake up.
I do that all the time. I have my phone right next to me and I'll be falling asleep, and then I'll like take my phone and write a bunch of notes and then put it back and then start falling asleep again. And then I go through that cycle a few times before I actually fall asleep. That's crazy. I never knew that.
So yeah, that's why he did that, because he would fall asleep and like let the ball drop. He'd wake up, and sometimes and they've actually proven that can help you solve more complex problems because your brain is not having to, there's not so many stressors going on at the same time, and it can really then tend to hyper focus. You can actually solve more complex issues way faster, and they've actually proven it with certain studies.
It makes sense because you probably have a lot less bias too. Like as you're falling asleep, you look at it so objectively instead of like with your bias or from certain perspectives, or your brain is like, this is a problem, let's solve it, and like you come up with a solution that you might not necessarily like or agree with, but it's solutions. I think that is a lot of what happens in dreams, which is why people look to dreams for answers too, right? Because it tells them things that they wouldn't necessarily want to know or believe in, or they're kind of avoiding answers, and it tells you the answer. So really interesting.
It is. It's still surprising to me that works as well as it does.
Yeah.
Like that's also crazy that it's on this list too. That's really weird to me. Like things that have just popped up, like if I'm scrolling through Instagram, I'm scrolling through TikTok a little bit because I'm like have like a couple minutes to myself, and I'm like, that's interesting, and I'm like, oh, that just came up today in our episode. Like that's maybe the universe is telling me something.
Right? No, it's super interesting, but like that's what's cool too, is like I said, they all overlap. So of course these things are going to keep popping up because it doesn't matter what you're looking at. If you're looking at anything that's health oriented, these things are gonna pop up. It's just really great to know that what it's doing for you. Like you keep seeing that it is helping you in the long run. Obviously, the sauna is another really good one. Let me actually just look really quick and see. Obviously we know that the sauna has amazing health benefits.
Yes.
So really quick here. Yeah, I mean like heart function is obviously like the biggest one that seems to be popping up. And let's see if it has any correlation with testosterone.
All that sweat just coming out of your body just helps you increase your testosterone because you're just like, I am losing all of my water. Please let me live.
Okay, so it says it is essential for body composition as well as muscle growth, but it doesn't directly affect testosterone levels, but having higher muscle mass will affect testosterone levels. So it doesn't directly cause it, but like through a chain reaction, it does.
Okay.
And yeah, also this is something I was looking at with my MMA training buddy. Doing the steam room is way better than doing the sauna. Literally, the sauna has all the same benefits as the steam room does, but the steam room has more because it is the same thing, except obviously with humidity. So if you're ever wondering about that, always opt for the steam room over the sauna.
Because that's what was at the Y when we would go, wasn't it?
Yeah, the steam room. Yep. I go to 24-hour fitness right now, and they've got both, and literally everyone is always in the sauna, and I'm just the only one in the steam room. I'm like, I know it's more intense, but that's because it's better. There's like, and also I could sit in the sauna all day. Like I don't feel that at all. It's just dry heat. I just sit in there
Yeah.
forever. Like, but in the steam room, like, 20 minutes.
Yeah,
you're
'cause
about to
I
die.
remember when we sat in there. I think we sat in there for like what 10, 15 minutes, and I walked.
Yeah.
I was like, granted, like yeah, there's steam on you, so it means you're gonna have precipitation on you. But I was, I
You're
felt
sweating.
I
You
was
know
just
it.
like, oh my god, like I'm just a different person right now.
And you get so like down to earth too. Like that's
Oh,
one
yeah.
of my favorite things. Like after you sauna and then you get out and you're just like, wow, I am so like present and in the moment. And that it's just like the feeling is so nice. So
Oh, it's great.
yeah. All right. Well, anything else you wanted to add?
No, I'm actually pretty good, but I did really like that little snippets here and there of just like those little anecdotes again. That actually really, it's weird to be able to correlate just like things that you may already naturally do to actually increasing testosterone. You're like, oh, so if I just do that more often, it'll actually be really beneficial instead of just like sort of beneficial. Like if you're going on
Right.
an hour walk 2 times a week, maybe increase it to 4 times a week if you
Yeah.
have some time, and it'll start to help you
And
probably.
even not only that, but like also the idea of like trying to stick to your like New Year's resolution or whatever, like the more reasons you have to back up your choices, like, oh, this is going to increase my testosterone levels and it's going to make me skinnier and it's going to help me build muscle and it's going to make me a happier person. Like the more things you add up together to be like, oh, these are all really, really good. And then like understanding the benefits of having high testosterone, of like not getting injured and having, higher muscle growth and just being happier in general and getting better sleep, like because they go back and forth like that. So yeah, I mean, like you treat your body well, it'll treat you well back, and that's just like basically proof of that. So really, really cool.
True.
Yeah.
No, I like it.
Sweet. I hope this helped
So-
everybody. This is something I've been working on, and it definitely helped me heal a lot of that hip abductor injury when I couldn't shake it. That was one of the things that I did to really finalize that healing process, and I haven't had any trouble since. So
Good. All right.
Sweet.
Well, with that, we will see you guys next time.
Don't forget to follow us on the_flip_side_podcast on Instagram.
And CHRISPY_TRIX. That's chrispy-trix on Instagram. And I also have another YouTube channel, TrixFix, TRIX space FIX, for more tutorials and other things.
And we'll see you guys next time.